My name is Duane Trowbridge. I'm a United States Marine. I was born in La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Great, thank
And then I
you.
moved to Virginia when I was a small kid.
I see. So then when you, when were you born?
I was born September the 19th, 1931.
Okay. And so when you enlisted, where were you?
I was in Portsmouth, Virginia.
So, and when was it that you enlisted to the Marine Corps?
December the 27th, 1948.
What made you want to enlist?
Just because I wanted to.
Oh, yeah?
Well, I say one reason,
Wow.
during the Second World War, I was young, but I always read the papers about the war in the Pacific and the Marines. But I also knew about the European campaign. But I just thought that the Marines were doing such a good job over there. And I watched them all the time, so that's one reason I joined the Marine Corps.
Were you in high school when you...
Yes, I was. I quit my junior year.
Wow.
And, of course, my parents had to sign, but my mama didn't want to. My daddy was glad to get rid of me. Yeah, but then she finally signed, so then I joined when I was 17.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, well, do you remember the first time that you heard about Korea and that there is now a Korean War? What were you feeling?
Well, I tell you, we were at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and we had just come back from the Mediterranean on a cruise. I was on a Midway, and also the Roanoke, a light cruiser. Well, we got back in June, and we were out at the rifle range, and we heard something about North Koreans attacking South Korea. Well, nobody knew where Korea was. I mean, I didn't, you know. I knew where Japan, a lot of those other places, but not so much Korea. And a lot of people just said, where is that? So that's where I first heard about it, about the middle part of, well, end of June, after the attack, June the 25th, 1950. So, but I had no idea where Korea was.
And when you were told that you were now going to go there,
Well, I just told, we were out at the rifle range, what they call snapping in, and I told my buddy, I said, you know, Robert, they're going to come out here and tell us to pack up our gear and come back to the main base. So we did, and when they did, they told us we were going to be shipping out to the West Coast, but not telling us exactly what we were going to do. And we got on, we got on the troop train and rode to the West Coast, to Pendleton over here. So that's how we did. And then, of course, we were there a couple of weeks, and then got on a boat, Simon B. Buckner, and went to Kobe, Japan. Well, we really knew we were going to go to Korea, but not know when or where, because they were kind of keeping that a secret. So we ended up landing in Incheon, September the 15th, 1950.
you know, right now there's a movie out
Yeah.
about, did you hear? Were they talking about, oh no, you weren't there.
No, I didn't go to that movie.
Yeah, there's a Korean blockbuster movie
Oh.
about the Incheon landing.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Well, you know what amazed me? I did a return trip there. And where we landed, that's filled in. That's where the airport is.
Ooh, yeah. When were you there?
2010.
Okay. A lot changed, right?
My gosh. I was there was one bridge across the Han River, and of course that was all blown up. Now, there are 24 bridges over there, and 11 million people live in the city.
Right.
But it was, I mean, I was just amazed at the difference, you know. When I was there, it might have been 500 people live in the city, if that many,
Right.
because there was a lot of street fighting going on, you know.
Yeah, can you tell me more about what was the Korea that you saw back then? What did you see when you first arrived? What was it like?
Well, of course, you know, landing at Incheon, I mean, I was a little skeptical, but we went over and we had to build these ladders because we had to go up a wall. And we went up the wall, and I was just kind of, you know, walking along. Next thing I know, I see dirt hitting up around me, right? hey, somebody's shooting at me. So I said, I gotta get moving. So I started running, but I mean, it gives you an eerie feeling right away. And then, of course, we went and took a hill off to the right at night. Yeah, but it was kind of eerie feeling. And of course, in the nighttime there, we just stayed there that night, and then the next day we jumped off again. But we'd landed like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We had to wait because the tide was 30 feet. So the next morning, we looked out, and that whole bay was nothing but mud. And LSTs and LVTs just sitting on the bottom. So that was, to me, amazing. I never saw anything like that before. But then we jumped off and started going towards, Seoul, fighting and all. And I had one guy that was in the Army with me. He got buried in the foxhole. And he dug all night long. He said, I'm not going to get buried again. So, man.
Wow.
Yeah, but it was eerie, a little scary, but we had a job we had to do.
Yeah.
And then as we advanced, going over to Seoul, the third day, September the 18th, we came in under a horrific mortar attack. And I got shrapnel in this knee and my shin. And that was the day before my 19th birthday. My birthday was the 19th of September. But a friend of mine, Bill Tyson, got completely blind, lost his eyesight from the mortar shrapnel, Yeah. And that day, I think we lost probably about 15 people in the platoon from the mortar attack. And of course, I went to a aid station, got fixed up, and stayed back there for about 5 or 6 days and went back. And when I joined back, you ever heard of Chesty Puller?
Mm-hmm.
He was my regimental commander. So he gave me my Purple Heart when I came back. And then, of course, I went back to my outfit. And we were sitting on the Han River before we made it to go over to Seoul. But we went through Yeongdong-po. And in there, in the meantime, we were doing a lot of fighting. And one thing we had was the T-34 tanks that they had from Russia. The Army couldn't seem to knock them out. But we had 3.5 bazookas. We hit those and they would knock them tanks out in a heartbeat. So we did that. And then they had like some elevated railroad tracks. And under, they had taken rice bags and filled them up with sand or something, so you couldn't go under. You had to go over the top. So they had the things zeroed in with a machine gun when you went across the top. This guy I was telling you about the foxhole got shot in the rear end. He said, Lord, I'm going home. But anyway, then they came up with tanks and blew those things out so we could go underneath. And we fought in the Seoul. Went up, there was a school, I think up on a hill or somewhere there. And we end up there after a lot of street fighting and things like that. And then, I don't know, about the end of September, that's when MacArthur came in there and gave Sigmund Rhee the key back to the city. But it was still devastated. I mean, everything was, blown up and stuff like that. And after they did that, then a few days later, we ended up going back to Incheon, and we got on LSTs and went around and landed back at a place called Wonsan. And that was about, in October. Yeah. Then from there, we went from Wonsan over to a place called Maginot, which was halfway between Wonsan and Seoul. And what we were doing there, we were capturing a lot of the North Koreans coming up, because when we landed at Incheon, that made a cutoff from there for the people coming from the south. And so we captured about 1,600 of the North Koreans there. And we were there from about October to probably about November, maybe around the 20th, 23rd, something like that. And we left from there. In the meantime, when the trucks were coming to bring supplies from Wonsan over, they would get ambushed a lot of times. So because it was a high hills on either side, like a valley, and they would get ambushed. So that happened a lot too. And we went from there, we got on the train and went up to Ham Hung, and then we got on trucks and headed up to the Chosin Reservoir. First we went to Lakota Reef, which was the very top. And that was the headquarters for the 1st Marines. Then we went from there to a place called Hagaroo Reef. And then we got up there about November the 25th, somewhere in that neighborhood, but it was getting pretty cold. And so at Hagaroo Reef we set up the division headquarters. Then they started making an airfield there. So we had 2 companies there. And the 5th Marines and 7th had gone further north. And on the east side of the reservoir was Army group, the 7th Division, 31st and 32nd, I think it was, Army battalions. And of course we had a group at a place called Tupton Pass, which is about 4 miles outside of Hagaroo Reef. So they Fox Company held that pass. And everything, was getting colder and colder, getting plenty of snow and every day. And it would get, in nighttime, minus 40 degrees, which is chilly. And snow every night, every day. But like I say, I'd do it all over again, no hesitation. In fact, I have done a lot of stuff talking about the Korean War to schools. We found, like around Seoul one time, in a ditch where they had tied, like some of the big officials, their hands behind them and then killed them. And that happened a lot because the North Koreans did it.
Do you remember any interactions with the local Koreans or Korean soldiers during the war?
I'll be honest, I never served with any ROK, ROK. I never served with any, and I never really, other than after the fact, I've met quite a few of them, but I never served with any when I was there. So I can't say, too much. But I do know that they fought with them, but I never fought with any of them. They were maybe with the Army, or I know the Marines had some too, but I never had an occasion to fight with them. Because they were there helping too.
You mentioned a few close calls and difficult moments when you were in Korea. Do you have maybe any kind of more happy stories, rewarding stories that you can remember?
I don't know, I guess maybe. We used to dump the powder out of a hand grenade, and then you screw the thing back in, and you'd be around there talking, so what you do, you just pull the pin on the hand grenade, and the guy said, man, don't be doing that stuff, that thing will blow up. Oh, so what? So you drop it, the pin goes off, but nothing happens because the powder's gone, and they start scattering the thing.
Oh my God.
So then later on they say, I don't think that's very funny. I thought it was funny.
Wow.
And we did that a couple of times.
Couple of times.
Yeah,
let's see. When did you leave Korea back for the U.S.?
Oh, well, see, when I got shot in the head, June the 3rd of 1950, and that's when I started my travel back, because I got operated at Taegu Army Hospital, and I went to Tokyo, and I wasn't able to walk or anything else because this leg had like a paralysis in it.
Your right leg?
Yeah, from the shot in the head. And so eventually I end up in Portsmouth, Virginia, at the Naval Hospital there. That's where I joined the Marine Corps. Mm-hmm. And so eventually that's where I got the plate put in my head.
I see.
And then I got a medical retirement from the service.
When was that?
November the 30th, 1951.
1951.
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
yeah.
And you said the gunshot was in June?
No, it was March the 3rd, 1951.
Oh, okay.
That was after the reservoir course,
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
Where was it then? Where did it happen?
Well, up above Wanju in a place Hyeongsong, yeah.
I see.
Mm.
Wow. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine. Any friends from when you served that you want the rest of us to remember? Any names that you
Well,
can
you know,
recall?
I'll tell you this one guy, Bill Tyson, of course, he's passed away. He was the one that got blinded, and he was from Akron, Ohio. And I went and visited him when I came back, because I'd gone up to Wisconsin. And he lived in Akron, so I came back and visited him in Akron.
Yeah.
And he had gotten married and had a couple kids too, yeah. But he was missing some fingers. I said, what happened to your fingers, Bill? Well, I went to this blind school to learn how to operate a lathe. And I cut my fingers off. I said, Lord have mercy. But him, another guy named Robert Scoggins from Alabama. And they used to call us the Three Musketeers.
Really?
Because we were always together. Then at Camp Lejeune and all that stuff.
Wow.
And it's you guys like a guy named Jerry Plunkett, Mike Tetterello. All these guys were ones that I really kind of interacted with when we were Camp Lejeune. Yeah.
Mm.
But those guys, yeah. And that, of course, all of them have gone, they're gone.
You're part of which unit?
Or the company I was with,
The company?
it's called H31. That's Howe Company, 3rd Battalion, 1st Marines. And that was Chesty Puller's group.
Okay. What did you do after you discharged from the military and you're just
Well,
back to regular life?
I got introduced to this lady I'm married to, okay, for 63, almost 63 years. And she talked me into going back to school. So I quit school and went in the Marine Corps. So I went back to school. And I was the only veteran back to that school at that time. So when I graduated, I doubled on history and took all this stuff just to get out of there. And when I graduated, the whole class got up and clapped for me. And the principal said, Duane, I'm sure glad you finally got out of here. Because he knew me from before, you know. Yeah.
High school, right?
Yeah. Wow. And then I went to college and studied architectural engineering. So.
Wow, all those. Well, I guess you were a few years older than all the rest of the kids.
Well, yeah. See, I was like, let's see, 22. I tried to date my high school classroom teacher. She would. I don't date my students. I'm not a student. She was a nice-looking girl too.
How did you feel? Wow, you're really going back to where you were, high school.
Yeah.
How did you feel going back to where you were before, after having experienced all this in the war?
Well,
do you remember what you were kind of thinking? What you were?
No, I don't. I just went and took care of business. That's all. I did go to work first. You know, I got a job, went back to work. Yeah. But and then of course, as time went by, and I met my wife. I got married when we were going to college. I went to a place up in Richmond College called RPI, Richmond Professional Institute, and it was an extension of what they call VPI, a college, which is now Virginia Tech.
I see. And you went for architecture.
Architectural engineering.
I see.
Yeah. I got smarter.
What kind of job did you have?
Well, I ended up in construction, but I quit working. I was a vice president of a construction company, and I was in charge of all the outside work. When we worked all over the state of Virginia. So sometime we'd have 300 people working for us in the summertime. Yeah.
Right.
But I was with them for 21 years.
What are some of your hobbies?
Well, I'm a certified scuba diver.
Ooh,
I
cool.
own the aircraft. I'm a private pilot. Let's see, and well, skydiving. In organizations, I'm on the mayor's veteran committee. Do the Veterans Day Parade, First Marine Division Association. I'm treasurer, and I'm of course belong to the chosen few. So I stay busy, and especially around where we live. I do a lot of volunteer, VFW. So I stay busy because I quit working. I didn't retire, I quit because my wife was working.
I see.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You seem so healthy. You seem so young.
Well, yeah, I mean, my health is pretty good. I have sometimes little skirmishes, but other than that, I'm in good shape compared to some of the guys I see out here.
Yeah.
So I always tell them, I see all you guys with these kitty carts. We're going to get you all lined up and let's have a race sometime.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I only have just a few more questions.
Yeah.
What does the Korean War mean to you in your life? What kind of impact had it had?
Impact, well, I said it was a great lesson for one thing. And then going back and meeting so many of the people that were so, I mean, like honored because I helped save their country. That was a big thing. And I mean, I just could not believe it when I was there, how nice they were, you know.
Well, thank you for
Well,
that.
you're welcome.